My name is Ashley Iannuzzi, and I work on the product marketing team at Salary.com. And we'll be here today introducing today's webinar, running the Zoom. Today's session is called I Saw This Online, Preparing for Pay Conversations Year Round. No matter if you're in compensation, HR, recruiting, you might have run into some version of this at some point. An employee or even, a candidate saw a number somewhere online, whether it was LinkedIn, Glassdoor, a conversation that they had in the break room. And now they've got questions. And usually there's, zero warning before that conversation ends up landing on your desk. So today we're going to kind of get into why these conversations keep happening more and more, what's happening behind the data that people are finding, and mainly how you can be ready for it year round, not just when it is brought on your desk and brought to your attention. So I want to go over a few housekeeping items before we dive into the agenda for today. This webinar is being recorded, so if you missed anything, you'll definitely get a recording emailed to you. And if you have any questions at any point during the session, please drop them in the Q&A box on the Zoom screen. We'll address those more towards the end of the webinar during our Q&A portion. And then lastly, I do want to mention today's session does qualify for professional development credits through SHRM, HRCI, and World at Work. So we'll be sure to cover more on that and how to claim your credits towards the end of the session. All right, we can jump into the agenda and take a look at what we've got lined up for today. So we're going to kick things off talking about why these pay conversations tend to blindside managers and why that seems to be happening more and more lately. And from there, we'll get into what online salary data is actually showing us, as well as what it's not showing you, because that gap is usually where, all that tension comes from. And then we'll walk you through a framework you can use in your conversations. Nothing really complicated, but something that hopefully can help to build trust over time, instead of getting you just through that moment. And then we're going to talk about how to close that data gap on your side using tools like our real-time job posting data solution, Salary IQ. So you've got real market intelligence that's, backing you up in these conversations. So that will involve a short product demonstration, and then we'll wrap up with a Q&A session at the end. All right, so leading us through today's session is Taylor Lust. Taylor's a solutions consultant here at Salary.com, and she's actually been with us for over 4 years. She started out on our professional services team, working directly with clients before moving into her current role. So she's seen a lot of this firsthand, and she's certified across all our product suites, and spends her time working with prospects and existing clients, helping them figure out the right data and right solutions for whatever they're trying to solve for in compensation. Taylor has her BS in Industrial and Labor Relations from Cornell, and she is actually working towards her CCP designation right now too. So I'll go over and hand it to Taylor. Taylor, thank you for
Awesome.
joining us.
Of course. Thank you, Ashley. Hi, everyone. Great to meet you all. Thanks for taking the time to attend today's webinar. So to begin, we're going to really focus on, okay, if your manager is ready to have these conversations. Because often organizations just look at merit annually. You'll have conversations with managers right before that process has started. So often throughout the year, they aren't ready to have these conversations. So if it's just a random Tuesday at your organization and someone comes up and says, hey, I just saw on LinkedIn that similar roles at other companies pay 15 to 20% more than I'm making. Can we talk? Is your manager ready for that conversation? Because it is already happening with or without your preparation. And the honest answer for most organizations, it's going to depend. on the manager. Some can handle it beautifully. Some may freeze. Some may say the wrong thing. That inconsistency is going to be some of the real risks that you face. And the timing is really important to note too, as I had mentioned. Um, it's often not during the merit process when everyone is primed. It can happen on a random Tuesday. The data doesn't wait for your calendar because the merit cycle may just be 6 weeks, but the questions are happening all 52 weeks. We spend time building a rigorous comp process and then pack nearly all the manager enablement into one annual window. We'll train them right before merit, arm them with the talking points, and then the next month that is all gone. Everything you see on the screen right here doesn't check when the calendar, or doesn't check the calendar, doesn't check when the merit process is happening, like Glassdoor screenshots shared in Slack, LinkedIn salary surveys published, competitor posts, big pay story, offer letter from a rival company, quiet quitting articles circulate. These often all spark off-cycle pay questions. And then there are also three big kind of any's. Any day, which estimates, or I should say a salary estimate can surface at any time a platform refreshes, which is constantly, which is any day. Another big any is going to be these questions come from any trigger, a job change, a headline, a casual lunch chat. And then it also can happen to any manager. It often will land to whoever's closest. It's not going to be your most polished leader. It's just the nearest one. So it's really important to make sure every manager is capable to answer these questions all year long. The gap isn't attitude, it's infrastructure. When things go wrong, the instinct sometimes is to blame the manager. Maybe they got defensive. Maybe they need soft skills. Communication training does have its place, but it's not going to be the root. The root is within the infrastructure. You'll need a shared language. So if there is no shared language, there are no clear language for how pay decisions are made in the organization. There's sometimes going to be the data void. That's another thing to look out for. You're expected to address market data you've never seen or been trained to interpret. Another is going to be a fear of promises, worried that engaging will create expectations you can't fulfill or commitments HR won't back. And then the off-script moment. Compensation training is merit season only. Off-cycle questions feel improvised and risky. So these are often challenges a lot of your managers will face. It isn't because of a particular attitude, it's because of that infrastructure itself. And then there are often three predictable, what I like to call failure modes, which is the managers go silent, and this reads as they're hiding something. They may get defensive, which only escalates the issue. And then they often, or I should say, another thing that will happen is they'll make a promise they can't keep. And this is often the worst. Like an expectation, finance will never actually approve. A key first step in all of this is understanding the data they're seeing, the data that is presented to them. Often, when employees come to a manager, they're not making the number up. The data does signal real things, so it's important to not wave it away. Don't disregard it. What it signals, so we'll focus on that first. It signals a broad market demand for a job category. It signals general ranges by location and title keyword. It signals how visible companies in a sector are compensating. And then it also signals self-reported data from people with similar job titles. But a big thing to also focus on now is what it is missing. It's missing your specific structure, your pay grades, your pay bands. Your total comp, things like equity, bonus, benefits, flexibility. It's missing the actual scope or complexity of the role. And then finally, where your individual sits within your pay range. So employees aren't wrong to look. They just sometimes have incomplete information, and your job as a manager is to complete the picture. The next item we'll talk through is the fact all market data is a model, and every model has assumptions. The first being that titles aren't definitions. For example, a senior product manager at a 10-person startup is very different from a 50 billion enterprise, and those carry completely different scopes. It's important to focus on keyword matches, not necessarily job titles. The second, not all data sources are going to be equal. Self-reported platforms reflect whoever chose to submit, so there's often going to be a selection bias. The validated survey data that companies are often using come from companies reporting actual paid compensation, and that is going to be far more accurate. Next, geography is noisier than it looks. For example, a remote or hybrid job has scrambled location-based pay logic. A range tied just to San Francisco may not match where people actually sit or your own location strategy. And then the fourth and final, this is going to be one of the bigger ones. A number without structure has no context. So I really want you to think about that. A number without structure has no context. Even a perfectly accurate external number tells you nothing about where someone sits in the range, tells you nothing about how the bands are built or the path forward. Internal structure is the missing piece in all of that. So when an employee comes to you and says, the internet says X, you can meet this with, okay, that's one model. Here's a fuller picture and how our structure works. You should never just say, oh, that's wrong. This will then provide you a much stronger ground to stand on. And keep going through three main pillars that hold up under pressure. So really three main things to stand on if managers are struggling with defending pay. First being the market anchoring. Your narrative must start with real market data, interpreted through your own lens. What percentile do you target? Why? For which roles? It should be documented and manager accessible. The next key pillar is job architecture. Employees can't make sense of their pay without understanding the structure behind it. Clear job families, levels, and profession criteria give context that those external tools that your employees may be finding or articles or just word of mouth that won't be able to provide the clear context. And then finally, total reward strategy. Base salary is just one data point. Equity, bonus, benefits, flexibility, and development are part of the equation. A manager who can explain the full package is going to be a manager who can hold up a real conversation. So not just talking to base salary, but talking to everything as a whole, the total comp, plus other things like development or culture or flexibility. So now we're going to talk through a little bit of what employees actually need to hear when they say these phrases. So the surface words and underlying needs are often two different things. So the first phrase, they come to you, they say, oh, I saw on LinkedIn, my title pays more somewhere else. This needs context, not confrontation. It's important to explain positioning, the sources you use, where the role sits, without dismissing what they saw. The next, my friend got an offer 20% more. This is going to need more acknowledgement and the full picture. Validate the signal, then bring in total comp and scope. Offers often exclude what they already have, like tenure, benefits, vesting, stability. The third, let's say Glassdoor says we're underpaid. This needs transparency about the data, how it works, who submits it, how your approach compares to verified surveys. And then finally, I'm being recruited. They're offering more. This needs honest and immediate response. So understand the full offer, talk trade-offs, be honest if you can't match. Uh, Respect lands better even when the answer is no. So a pattern of all of these four, across all of these four, acknowledge the signal, then complete the picture. Never just lead with the rebuttal. Don't lead with no or confrontation. And this really helps build upon the 4 words to hold under pressure. Acknowledge, contextualize, commit, and follow through. Acknowledge is really validating the person before touching the data. It makes sense you'd want to understand where you stand. Avoid saying things like oh, dismissing the data or dismissing the feeling. This is going to be the fastest way to lose them in the first 10 seconds if you dismiss what they saw or what they're feeling. The next, contextualize, focus more on how we benchmark, where the role sits, what the data does and doesn't capture. This is where the infrastructure we talked about earlier really pays off. I would recommend avoiding over-explaining or getting defensive about the methodology. Then commit, say things like, here's what I can tell you today, and here's where I'll loop in HR. This gives you more of a permission to not have every answer, and that's sometimes better in these cases. You'll want to avoid promises you can't keep or vague corporate speak, like, we value you. That isn't a commitment. Saying, I'll have an answer by Friday is. And then finally, follow through. This one, a lot of people often skip. Saying things like, here's what I found and where things stand, versus the next cycle. You'll want to avoid letting it trail off with no resolution or timeline. That often can be worse than no conversation at all. These 4 words really help to, or I should say, really help managers under pressure be able to have these honest conversations with their employees. The next slide discusses how off-cycle moments are often trust opportunities in disguise. So there's going to be a key distinction between defending your pay philosophy and reinforcing it. They may sound similar, but the outcomes are going to be super different. Defending your pay philosophy often is saying things like, that data isn't accurate without an explanation. Our total comp is competitive. No substance. You're lucky to be here. Never ever say this. Saying things like, we can revisit this at merit time. That can be 12 months away. And then silence, deflection, or promising to investigate it. Again, vague things like, I'll look into it. This ends the conversation, erodes trust every single time. You'll want to, instead of doing things that fall under that defending your pay philosophy, you'll want to do more of the reinforcing your pay philosophy. So explaining what market sources you benchmark. Share how this role is positioned in your structure. Walk through the full total compensation picture. Be very clear on when and how decisions got made. And finally, acknowledge and admit what you don't know and actually follow up. Every good conversation about pay is a deposit in the trust account, which sometimes helps in order to balance the day that the answer is no, we can't meet that number. And the next slide, year-round pay conversation readiness is a capability. So this pulls everything together. As I just noted, year-round readiness is a capability. It's current data, clear structure, a simple framework, and managers who've practiced. So what goes into that? Documented pay philosophy, written, accessible, and consistent with how managers talk about pay day to day. Visible job architecture, we've talked about that earlier. Employees really understand what levels mean, how roles are structured, and what progression looks like. Off-cycle review triggers. A process exists not just in annual merit, but for promotions, market shifts, retention. Proactive communication. HR teams share market insights with managers before they hear about it from employees. Manager conversation guides, again, not scripts, but frameworks. What to say, what to avoid, when to escalate to HR. And then finally, real-time market visibility. Comp teams and managers can see actual job posting data, not just annual survey results, which that real-time market flexibility is something we're going to talk through on these last couple slides and dive into a demonstration on. And the narrative is only as strong as the data behind it, so having accurate, reliable information is going to be key. There are two kinds of market data. The strongest approach is using both. The first being traditional surveys. That's the decades-old foundation collected annually from HR and payroll, deep and verified, reflecting what companies are actually paid. Reflects what was paid, though, about 12 to 18 months ago. It's a rock-solid baseline, but sometimes a rearview mirror. And that's why it really works great in tandem with the job posting data. That's continuously updated from live job postings, reflects what companies are offering today, a real-time signal on demand, pay, and the specific skills they're paying for. So it's not going to be, and we recommend it's not an either or, it's a both. Together, they give you a baseline and a pulse of what the market paid and what it's paying now. That combination, the verified baseline and real-time pulse, is exactly the gap that fills the topics we've gone through today. This is where Salary IQ comes in. And what is Salary IQ if you aren't aware of it? With Salary IQ, we're continuously scanning millions of postings across 40 plus countries, and we run each through a validated job taxonomy. So the data maps to real defined roles, not title keywords. This can solve the issue like senior PMs mean 5 different jobs problem from earlier. It gives comp teams real-time intelligence that connects directly to your internal job architecture, fast, confident pay decisions instead of, I'm going to get back to you in 3 weeks. It's designed to work alongside survey data, not replace it. It fills the gaps between your last survey and what the market looks like today. And there are 3 big anchors. The taxonomy verified, posting data structured through validated job architecture, peer group intelligence, competitive, or it leads to competitive data where they can build, or I should say, you can build custom peer groups, see exactly what competitors post. And then finally, centralized dashboards, charts, maps, reports in one platform. So where does the data come from? This is a solution to what we've really started going through today, where managers freeze because they can't see the market. Salary IQ gives current role-specific data before the conversation happens. So they're armed, not ambushed. External data lacks context and verified structure. Salary IQ ties job postings to the industry's most trusted job taxonomy to facilitate precise matches, not noisy keyword guesses. It really helps to complete the picture. And then finally, internal narrative needs a credible market anchor. Salary IQ fills traditional survey gaps with real-time intelligence, the most complete picture available. Real data behind, here's where this role sits. Now we're going to focus or dive into Salary IQ. I'm gonna go back into my demo instance really quick. You guys should all hopefully see the Salary IQ module. Hopefully I wasn't logged out in the 30 minutes I've been talking. Awesome, awesome. So quick demonstration on Salary IQ, how you'll be able to leverage the system in order to prepare for pay conversations all year round. So far, job posting data, we're scraping company career sites, job posting boards, really any publicly available company posted data goes into this. So great, as I had mentioned throughout the demonstration, to fill data gaps or to use as a pulse check with the traditional survey information. The key difference between the two data sets I like to think about, the benchmark data, survey data, shows you more in the past what the organization actually ended up paying the position, while with the job posting data, this is more real time. It's updated daily, showing you what an organization would hope to pay. So what we'll do is we'll start searching for, let's say, software engineer. You'll be able to type in the specific job posting title. And what we do is we tie every single posting title back to one of our own benchmarked roles. So you do have the flexibility to determine or choose the benchmark role, the level you'd like to dive into. We'll show a little job description to make sure there's that best match. We also, though, have a keyword functionality. And I like this keyword search with unique positions where you're looking at these benchmarked matches and you think, these don't match my role. My role is a more industry specific, it's more niche. That's when I often recommend the keyword search option here. Software engineer is or has, I should say, a good benchmark role. So we'll just dive into the level 2. And then here you can type in any location or company. What I'm going to do is type in San Francisco, but you can type in states, metro areas, cities, and often by default, we're pulling in any postings within a 25-mile radius of the San Francisco area. But that is something we'll be able to increase or decrease. And here you're able to see that software engineer detail. You can read the job description, see some detail like job family, level, function. You also could easily pivot between levels, or if you wanted to pull a multi-job report, you'll be able to do that. And now within this screen, you're seeing what the median salary looks from job postings within the San Francisco area. My tool right now has all industries, all company sizes. That's also something we'll be able to update if you are trying to target a specific industry or size. Right now, within the San Francisco area for the software engineer role, there are 421 postings from 270 hiring companies. We also keep track and scrape additional data outside of just the ranges. We're keeping track on how long on average these postings have been open for. We keep track of skills data too, so we're scraping the skills so you can see the percent in demand, how much it impacts the salary by having these skills. We also provide you with skill descriptions and interview questions. A lot of organizations like to give this data set to recruiters, talent acquisition. So not only are they having competitive hiring rates, but they're asking the right kinds of questions during the recruiting process to hire candidates that can be successful. Some of the other insights you're seeing here, this top companies insight is showing you who is actively hiring, what their volume looks like, how their salaries may differ, and how long on average they have been open for. We've also been curating this tool set for about 5-6 years at this point, and that gives you access to historical data. So you can see month to month salary trends, and you even can forecast salary data to make sure you're staying competitive in the future. So again, you could be proactive. As I scroll down, we'll be able to focus on the areas around San Francisco actively posting for this position. You could see how the pay ranges may differ in San Francisco versus South San Francisco versus Berkeley or other metro areas. And as I mentioned, you can increase or decrease this radius if you'd like. If you just want to narrow in on San Francisco, we'll be able to do that. Again, focus in on who is actively posting. But as I'd mentioned, you could filter down if there was a specific industry that you wanted to target. These tie back to our 225 different sectors we have within our comp analyst market data. So you really can make sure you're targeting organizations specific to your own. And here again, will be able to highlight who is actively posting. We can then see someone like Google, what their postings look like, go into OpenAI and see their active postings. You can see that min, mid, and max values. Again, scraping skill information. So this is providing with accurate defensible pay ranges that are updated daily, so real time. So if you do have someone that comes up to you and has a questions around their pay, you can provide them with these accurate results. You'll even be able to view the posting site if it's still active online. We also have a company view, which instead of focusing in on the specific areas, we can focus in on some companies. And I'll go in, pull some companies that have the most volume to reference. So here you can see some companies. Let's say we want to focus in on Rippling. And you can see what their range looks like. An overarching theme of salary at Q&R job posting data. There are a lot of different ways to navigate through this depending on the information that you're trying to view. But here, within a couple of clicks, you're able to target perhaps a competitor and see all of their active postings from the software engineer space and get as granular as the posting source. And as I mentioned, we also can pull in a more customized view because we've been archiving, because we've been saving this information. Let's say we want to see all the postings from before a specific date, after, or between two dates. That is another functionality available, and this can be helpful if you are really narrowing down on an industry, location, it's a unique position. This does give you more of a volume to be able to refer back to. And everything you see here, you'll be able to export in PDF and Excel formats, even email back to your team in order to see this detail. And the update you make down here to the table will impact the overall salary data that we see too. Another key part of our job posting information is going to be our peer group functionality. And this is really helpful if you find yourself constantly looking at a couple organizations to see, okay, what are they posting? Where are they posting? Or perhaps if you're losing talent to some organizations, what we can do is we can go in, create as many different peer groups as you'd like. We can recommend some for you based off of your own company information. But here you'll be able to search by a company name, pull in specific area, an industry. I have, obviously, in my demo account, a lot of different examples of peer groups that we can set up. I'll just dive into one as an example, this food and beverage peer. This is helpful instead of just targeting one specific role on the last page. We really just looked at software engineers in San Francisco, so very specific. This is a little more broad, a little more general of seeing all of the posting activity from my peers. So the insights are a little different. Here you're viewing the cumulative hiring activity, so you can see month to month if the number of postings have changed, average duration has changed. This can be helpful to see, all right, are my peers posting more? Is it taking them longer to fill these positions? Just more valuable insights available to your organization. You can see who is posting, again, what their duration looks like, their volume. You can focus on skills important to these organizations too, like compliance or maintenance, recruitment, food safety. The posting view is, again, highlighting each specific area organizations are posting for talent in. We'll see if there are any, let's say, areas multiple organizations in my peer group are posting. So let's say Cincinnati. We'll be able to say, all right, who is posting in Cincinnati right now? Sargento, B&G Foods, and then we can see what those exact postings look like. Another way to view this data is our benchmark view. And on this peer group page, the benchmark view is one of my favorite displays because instead of focusing in on areas, you're focusing in on the commonly benchmarked roles from organizations like yourself. So here you can see top jobs and what that volume looks like. So focusing more on a machine operator, packaging machine operator roles, warehouse worker positions, because these types of roles are popular in this industry. You will be able to see what the aggregated range looks like for machine operator 1 or machine operator 2. We'll be able to focus in on where organizations are posting and how pay may differ in like a Denver or Minnesota. We'll be able to also take a deeper look and see, all right, who is posting now and what that posting actually looks like. So another way to leverage this information. And finally, we have our company view. This is focusing in on who is posting now. So we're able to get more specific in terms of Art Mills or Sargento Foods and see, all right, what benchmark roles is Sargento posting right now? And then where are they posting? And you can see what those salary detail or what that salary detail looks like. And you even can get more specifics. Let's say Kraft Heinz. We want to click on just that company. We can run a company search too, where you're seeing a little summary on the organization, their industry, some similar companies. And here you can see their job posting data. You can see, all right, it looks like they posted more in January, February, and since then have had a severe decline. Can see, all right, they're not specifying these cities. Perhaps these are remote workers. And you can see these detail. So again, a lot of different ways to navigate through this data set, but it does give you a lot of context into, okay, what are organizations posting right now? What are they hoping to pay these people so you can be ready and prepared for pay conversations all year round. Awesome. Let me go back into, and that's all I had really for the demonstration today. I can dive back into the presentation so we can do some questions. And Ashley, I'll turn things back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Taylor. That was a great demonstration. We received a few questions on a previous webinar's credentials, and I will reach out to the host of that webinar to make sure we get those credits to you or the codes to you. But let's dive into a few more of the other questions. Do you have a list of where the data comes from? Assuming Salary IQ data.
Yeah, great question. So since the data is collected and updated so frequently, we don't provide a list of sources. As I mentioned, we'll scrape from public online job boards, company career sites, and other publicly available data. But that said, a link to the posting source is available, and what you can navigate to is provided at the posting row level. So you can always get down to the site it was taken from, and often it's going to be the company career sites, and if not that, job boards like LinkedIn or Indeed.
And then Taylor, can you talk a little bit about, this wasn't a question we got, but often from customers we do, and it's very relevant with the conversation we had today about employees or candidates coming forward to, managers after seeing something on Glassdoor or Indeed. How is Salary IQ different from free sites?
Yeah, another great question. So Salary.com is very different from sites like a Glassdoor or an Indeed. The main difference being is that our AI technology carefully matches job listings to established roles. So it's sorting by function, family level, and focus, or career path. Our data is also clearly organized, and data reporting and calculations are transparent, making it really easy to see how we've arrived at our insights, something that other sources don't necessarily provide you with, or other solutions don't provide you with.
Another one here, do you have data outside the US?
Yes, our job posting data is pretty robust in terms of countries outside the US. I know I said 40 during the demonstration. I do think we're closer to like 50 or 60 at this point, and it's growing. So if you want to see an exact country list, definitely let us know, book a demo, and we're happy to share all that information.
Great. Another one here, not all states require a salary range to be provided. Is this only good for areas where pay transparency laws are currently in place?
Yeah, that's another great question. As I'm sure you're all aware, pay transparency is different in every country, every state, every area. Some areas are required to post ranges, others are not. We're very transparent in terms of, okay, is this a posted range or not? If it's a posted range, you'll see posted in our range source. In cases when organizations do not provide ranges, that's when you'll see a value called range IQ. That's a value added calculation. We take a look at the posting source itself and compare it to posting sources of a similar profile. And when that's done, we compare it against our own data to serve primarily as a pulse check to make sure there aren't any outliers. You'll always have the flexibility, though, to pivot to posted or all ranges. This can be helpful, and Range IQ is helpful if you are in an area where pay transparency isn't as common. It does give you more volume to reference. But again, you always can view posted if you don't want to look at the value added data.
And last one here, how do you come up with the forecasted data?
Awesome. Another great question. But to really summarize it, we have a very detailed methodology available upon a request around forecasting. So definitely recommend if you want pretty detailed view to share with your team to really ingest, let us know. We're happy to provide that. But generally speaking, Salary IQ gathers job postings where companies advertise job openings. We compare, contrast, categorize these job postings and match to our robust taxonomy of jobs. Salary IQ then predicts what these positions may look like in the future by considering location, industry, company profile, and similar jobs posted historically. We also always assign a confidence score to each posting we map to our taxonomy. And then augment this with information from various economic and labor market indicators to ensure accuracy.
Awesome. Thank you, Taylor. It looks like that was it for questions. We'll give a few moments just in case there are any last minute ones. I will point out that if you are interested in learning more about Salary IQ or just having a conversation with one of us, feel free to use the QR code on the slide. And then you'll notice below there are your professional development credits for SHRM in HRCI. World at Work does not offer recertification codes, but I'm going to go ahead and paste a link in the chat. And if you scroll to the research status and application button, you're able to add your credits there. So let me paste that in the chat for you all. I'll take one last look at the Q&A to make sure we didn't miss anything. And it looks like we are good. Awesome. Well, as a reminder, we will send you a copy of the slides with a recording and a follow-up email. Thank you all for joining us today. And thank you, Taylor, for taking time out of your day to present to us as well.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.